Hi guys, are you thinking of buying one of those cheapo Amazon guitars with the money you just got from grandma for Christmas? Well, here are a few things to consider before you do. Happy New Year everyone, season's greetings, joyous feast of old dried pigeon meat or whatever you celebrate to all of you. Nearly a year ago now, I made an impulse purchase on this, a surf green Telecaster style guitar from Sawtooth, and man did I regret it. It was my total physical, mental, and moral ruination. Well, actually it wasn't quite that bad, but suffice to say the unboxing video can't be shown in its entirety as it involves much profane language and at least one gunshot, and it somehow instigated the 2008 financial crisis, or so I was informed. Anyways, when I got this guitar, there were some evident plus sides that I noted right away, and definitely more than a few downsides that made me want to scream at a cloud. So I thought I'd take some time to generally talk about what to keep in mind when you buy a super cheap guitar like this, and what to do if you pull the trigger on a purchase and your new guitar still doesn't meet the rock bottom standards you may already have. First, let's talk about the big P. That's Paulownia. I think I'm pronouncing it right this time. It's that super soft balsa wood-like material you're finding on many bottom-end guitars these days. They may call it by a few names in the ads: Asian mahogany, whitewood, barrel body, balsa, whatever. This was advertised as having a sycamore body. It's all Paulownia. There are some bonuses to Paulownia. It's incredibly lightweight, so if you have back problems, this may be an okay stage option. It's not a dense wood, and some people say that accounts for less absorption of your strings' vibrations and thus a bit louder output. I'm not sure how scientifically accurate that is. And it's amazingly easy to cut through, so it's quite simple for mod jobs done without a router. But the drawbacks can't be overlooked either. First of all, it dents super easily. You can see from this guitar, I accidentally tapped this on a few surfaces, pretty lightly mind you, and those light taps left significant gouges. I've had other Paulownia guitars in the past which you take out of the box and play for a half hour, and you suddenly realize that your pick impact has recreated Manuel Noriega's face on the finish. So in terms of material, Paulownia is very soft, and in terms of long-term durability, it's probably a really short-lived wood. And of course, as mentioned in a previous video, Paulownia is just hard to shape properly and paint, and it's so porous and soft that using a veneer is the only way to not waste 5 cans of paint and primer, then go totally insane when you need 5 more cans of paint and primer. And then your entire apartment complex has been consumed by paint fumes, and the old accountant 2 doors down is on the roof wearing nothing but a ratty old pair of boxer briefs screaming about the hollow earth theory, and yeah, you don't want that. Now let's move on to hardware here. The hardware on these ultra cheap guitars is always going to be suspect, and if you end up with keys that hold tune and a bridge and saddles that work as intended, then you're a happy camper. On this guitar, this unbelievably shipped with saddles which were too large for the bridge, meaning the high and low E were hanging nearly off the fretboard. It was truly unplayable right out of the box, and by God, Go DPS music was gonna get an earful from me. Luckily, I had a set of brass intonated saddles on hand, which I was gonna swap in anyways. I usually keep a few packs of these nice Wilkinson brass saddles on hand, and that was an easy fix. So, be prepared for bad hardware and plan for hardware that may need to be swapped out right away. That should not have to be the case on super low-end guitars, but sadly it often is. Just the lay of the land with such tight margins on these guitars. Now let's talk a bit about electronics and pickups. You're almost always going to get little dime-sized pots and cheap import switches with these, and they're usually going to be subpar, but for the most part they generally do the job, at least for a while. Pickups, however, can be a gamble, especially when you're dealing with extremely cheap single coil pickups where they wind them up and skip the wax coating process altogether. If you remember that glary guitar from a year or so ago, that was an extreme example of a set of pickups which just sounded like screaming tin cans from Dante's Inferno and couldn't even be used in a simple demo. So if you're concerned about the pickups and don't want to have to spend more money on a pickup swap right away on your budget guitar, do your research. check guitar forums, ask around to see if the pickups in the guitar you're buying are usable, and preferably wax potted to avoid that microphonic clanging sound that has about the same tonal quality as the T1000 being dissolved in a vat of molten steel. We all remember that sound. In this guitar, this shipped with the standard single strip ceramic telly pair, but luckily these were reusable, and you know what, I actually don't mind these particular pickups for what they are, quite similar to what you'd get in a Squire Bullet, for example. And finally, last but not least, fit and finish. While the fitment was okay, and the string spacing issue was thankfully fixed with new saddles, the finishing on this guitar was what I'd call, horrendous. There's just a raggedy chainsaw cut look to this neck pocket, which actually kind of shocked me, not in a good way, of course. I mean, I'm not sure if I've ever seen a cut this bad. Numerous finish flaws, and the body contours are all over the place. I had trouble believing that a company that now makes what are some fairly well-regarded guitars could spit this out, but there you have it. Keep in mind, this was the last of the super cheap line sold by Sawtooth, so that's probably why it was going for a fire sale. And I just couldn't resist the bargain, so in a way I was the sucker. Luckily, none of this affected the playability, as the neck was actually surprisingly good. I love the medium jumbo frets on this. The fretboard is some kind of compound wood, definitely not rosewood. It's probably like avocado butt wood or some wild thing no one's ever heard of, but it's nice and flat, and after about a year, 0 fret sprout and really minimal buzzing. Suffice to say, if you do buy that dirt cheap guitar, don't be surprised if you get a neck and a body that feel like they were built for different guitars. Anyhow, after that overlong spiel, hopefully you're still with me. Let's get down to the best part about owning a Paolonia guitar, and that is a good old-fashioned set of mods. By God, it's been a while. It's been like a week since I've done a mod, but anyway, it feels like a long time for me. And since I've been hankering to give this guitar the good old Nashville middle pickup mod for a while, let's get down to cutting into this guitar and giving it that mod with a slight twist on my usual rip and replace mentality. I'll see you at the table. So this mod's going to be cheap and simple. Just going to use a cheap ceramic single coil pickup I got laying around like this, and a two-way switch to go straight to the output jack, which will actually give you a substantial clarity and volume boost. So like any good mod, we begin by slapping our pick guard down into place. Make sure that's seated over top of the control plate. Trace your middle pickup out, marker or whatever. Then we're going to drill a pilot hole here because we are going to use good old-fashioned Dremel as opposed to a router, largely because this wood is just so super soft, and as you can see, the Dremel tool cuts through it right like butter. No need for a router here. This took literally 7 minutes or something to get through this whole thing. There's our hole. Not the prettiest hole in the world. It'd be nicer if you use a router, but it'll do for our purposes. Now we're going to use one of these flexi drill bits. I highly recommend these for getting around tight corners, to drill from the bridge cavity to our middle cavity. And yeah, as you can tell, that goes through in about 2 seconds, so soft. And you want to bore out a slightly larger hole for the leads going through. So you just take an auxiliary bit here and twist that around a little bit. Now we're going to drill a hole in the control plate for the switch. And to do that, we're going to turn first to our punch here, make a couple of indents to make sure our drill bit doesn't slip during the drilling process. And then we're going to turn to a 7/16 bit here. I recommend you use at least that to drill a nice tidy hole. Now here's the switch set in place in the control plate. And with that switch set in place, see here 2 wires. The yellow wire is the hot wire coming from the pickup, and the blue wire is the wire that goes straight to the output jack. And of course it's made easier with the screw-in switch. Now we solder the pickup ground to the back of a pot, and we put a nice big glob of solder on the lead coming from the switch, the output jack. And there is one issue here. Can you see what it is that Sawtooth forgot to do? It is putting in a ground wire. I wondered why this was buzzing like a goddamn mockingbird in my ear. Well, I had to drill a hole and fix that, but anyways, yet another issue. But with that done, I have fixed a lot of the buzzing issues anyways. And here is the final product.
it is looking not too bad. So with that said, let us get on to a little sound test here. Sound demo time.
Well, there you have it, folks. Another mod project in the books, and for once, a simple mod that didn't cost me hundreds of dollars. This guitar held up in a demo and seemed to do just fine. To my ears, it had that budget telly tone going on, but the middle pickup gave it a nice slant too, especially with the straight to switch mod, which is pretty simple to do. So if you do pick yourself up a Licks Pro, a Glary, etc., you know, one of those very cheap guitars usually sold for the price of a case of beer, at least here in New Brunswick, am I right? This is a fun early project to take on. But, you know, let me know your thoughts in the comments and what you thought of the demo, if you thought the build was okay, whether you'd prefer never to hear from me again, etc. Now back to the quality of the guitar itself. Given what I said earlier in this video, could you use this for a recording or bring it on stage? I mean, tone-wise, you'd likely have no problem with this one, especially after the mod. And of course, having a neck with medium jumbo frets always helps as well. But as I said, in terms of durability and some of the hardware, I'm not sure if I'd take this past the occasional recording tool usage, as I'm pretty sure the body of this guitar would start to disintegrate about 1.5 gigs into a multi-city tour, at which point your career would be over and you'd be relegated to playing bit parts in low-budget wrestling films. Second Spectator Hit by Banjo is your screen name now. Anyways, that was just an overlong spiel about my thoughts and what you can expect when purchasing a super cheap guitar. Observations formed not just from this guitar, but of course from many really low-end guitars I bought, fixed up, and mostly given away as gifts over the years. I mean, at the same time, this whole video was really just an excuse to do another cheap guitar mod, but you know, I can't go like 5 seconds or more than 48 hours at max without planning another mod. That's my personal life. Let's never speak of that again. In summation, my overall opinions, while these rock bottom guitars can be tempting to grab due to looks, easy availability, and of course low prices, you need to know that you're always rolling the dice, more so than you are on a guitar in the normal budget or intermediate range. There will always be a bit of uncertainty over a guitar you've never actually seen in person, and unfortunately some very low-end guitar manufacturers will take advantage of that fact, so just be prepared for some unexpected quality surprises. And if you do get a guitar like this, which really only requires a quick swap of the saddles or a quick setup, then you've probably done okay. And of course, if you do get way less than you expected, like this glorified piece of lumber, maybe I'm being too harsh on it, but you should have seen my face when I took it out of the box, you can quickly give yourself some cool new options with a mod that's pretty simple and at the same time dirt cheap, as I've shown. I mean, there's nothing cheaper than a pickup you've had lying around, a $10 pick guard, and a $5 switch. That's about it, folks. Thanks again for watching, and once again from myself and my fine old family of guitars, have yourself a great new year. In 2024, I hope to bring you lots of cool new guitars, interesting and useful tones, and of course, lots of modifications that you can hopefully apply to your own guitars. Thanks again, guys. Be sure to like, comment, subscribe, etc, etc, etc. Keep on playing and keep watching the channel for a whole lot more. Damn the torpedoes, go for broke, get it done, fire them guns, seize them cannons, shoot to thrill, play to ill, too many women with too many gills, etc. I don't know what I'm saying. Ugh.